We'll be presenting our JPC project, which took place in Nicaragua this past summer in July 2011. I'm Katie Hempenius, and I'm joined by...
I'm Leanne Lee.
David Griggs.
Tyler Slack.
And Shreya Soni.
Do you have a clicker?
Perfect. Left hand, right.
In addition to the JPC team you see up here, we are joined by three additional individuals, Matt Junklaus, Walt Depp, and Rachel Boots. Our community partner was Bridges to Community, and they're a nonprofit NGO that works primarily in Nicaragua. They've been working there for about 20 years now, and they primarily conduct service learning projects. This is Nicaragua. The community we were working in was Siuna, which you can see up here on the map, and then the star to the bottom is the suburb of Siuna called Fonseca, which is where our photo voice research took place. The green star on the map is the community of Rosa Grande, which is where our team will be returning to next year. Our work had four primary components. Three of these were part of our JPC project. These were photo voice, GIS mapping, and water testing. The fourth component was working with Bridges to Community on some of their community initiatives. These are some examples of them. They've built a bridge in Fonseca to the local school, as well as elevated latrines and ventilated stoves. Now Leanne will talk about the photo voice component.
Okay, so Photo Voice was the first of our three components, and it was our main focus for this project. The reason we chose this is because it's a methodology that uses objective photography to capture the perspectives of the subjects themselves, rather than an outside group such as us imposing our perspective of their situation. So the overall goal of Photo Voice is to facilitate discussion and awareness both among the community as well as our group, and also to motivate further action. So from their findings, see what else they can do from there. To give you a rundown of the process, first we collected a participant group with consideration given to age, ranging from around 12 to the eldest members who are still walking. Occupation, although this was mostly farming, we also had some students, and gender we tried to keep as equal as possible. There was an initial meeting where we handed out cameras and trained them in terms of how to use the cameras, ethical considerations such as self-censorship, and telling people before they took the pictures or asking them. And we had a native Spanish speaker translate what we were telling to the villagers themselves. We also gave some historical examples of the outcomes that could come from participating in this project. So, for instance, the photography involved in the child labor movement in the U.S. After that, we asked them to go out and take pictures of conditions and problems that they would like to see changed within their village. And we gave them anywhere between 3 and 4 days to just take pictures on their own time and then come back. After 3 to 4 days, we regrouped, and we had them explain their findings to us and choose some of their favorite pictures and contextualize them, so tell us the story behind why they chose the pictures and what they thought the stories meant. After that, the group compiled all our observations, and we organized the photos into different main categories, which we then created captions for to explain or consolidate all the different villagers' views. So we found from our results that, contrary to what one might think, a lot of the photos focused on a problem that was not purely selfish. So they were very selfless in their findings. The problems were mostly health and safety, so very immediate issues, especially for disadvantaged people like children, the elderly, and the poorest members of the community. These issues involve creek crossings, so in terms of building a bridge, latrines, the sanitation, the trash dump, primarily the runoff that was going into some of the poorer areas, access to medicine, especially among the elderly, and a safe space for kids' sports, since mostly they were just playing in the street right now, which was very dangerous. And then as the last component, we presented these photos back to community. We taped all the photos up on a wall, or some representative ones with the captions, and then the community leader, Don Juan, presented them to the community. They got a chance to look at them and discuss the findings. So there were a lot of lessons learned, both on our part and on the part of the NGO. Bridges learned that some of the problems that they had perceived, so one of the projects they were doing was a community center, wasn't necessarily what the villagers thought was a more immediate problem. So, for instance, they thought that housing for the poor people in their community was of more importance. Also, who their projects reached, Bridges had created a water system previously, but we found that the system was mostly just reaching people who were part of the town leadership or were in a more central area of the village. And on our part, we found that issues that we thought would be very obvious, so we thought, like, the roads were awful, but they didn't seem to think it was an issue, and they identified other issues which we did not think were as obvious. Also, resource distribution. Although the whole village was very poor, there was a wide gradient of poverty. And then lastly, the representation of community needs. This is an area we could have improved on in our project because we mostly drew from Fonsecan leadership since they were the ones who usually attended meetings. So most of the participants in the Photo Voice project were people who were connections of these leadership.
Another major aspect of our project, thank you, was the creation of an interactive map that describing the community of Fonseca and all of its residents. This was something that was first brought up by Professors Dana Elsie and Chris Gist back here. They said that the best way to make an impact on a public health project would be to make an accurate map or schematic of the community with good information. So we bought 3 handheld GPS units and took them down there, and sure enough, they became very useful because Bridges the community was constructing a gravity-powered water system in Fonseca, and our information was integral for getting distance and elevation changes between nodes on this system, which they would not have been able to do with much accuracy otherwise. Here's a picture of the map. This is just a low-res screen cap from the map, which is currently housed on Bridges' computers back in Nicaragua. But as you can see, it covers every single house, all 56 households in Siuna. We walked around with community local residents with interpreters and just a couple of teammates in small teams, and visited every house. It was a great way to learn the terrain, to meet the people there, really introduce ourselves, and build some familiarity with the region, in addition to giving some really valuable information to Bridges engineers. That it was a great experience for us. We learned a lot from it, and this was the first really useful modern map of the region since the last one that we found was early 20th centuries from the Canadian mining company made a map, but it wasn't much good anymore. So this was a useful thing that we managed to do when we weren't working on Photo Voice or on service projects around.
The third component of our project was water testing. We chose to do this to get a basic idea of water sanitation, and this happened to be particularly relevant seeing that BTC was constructing a new water system. This is an example of a place we tested water. This is a well belonging to our host family. They were fairly well off, so this is an indicative of what normal villagers where they would go to get their water. Additionally, we did water testing during the rainy season, so villagers had other options for sources. Normally, in the dry season, they would be forced to get water from the creeks, and in these same creeks, they clean chicken, cut them, and also do their laundry with bleach. So there's a positive bias on all the data we collected. These are the results, basic results of our water tests, and this is for the community of Fonseca. Iron and copper were chosen because they are indicative of other metal contamination, or heavy metal contamination, and based on the mining history, we thought this may be an issue. Iron being in the water is not a primary contaminant, but copper can hurt you, and pH in general turned out to be good because water was not acidic in Fonseca. However, it was in the city. Coliforms were positive everywhere. It's fecal contamination. This is a picture of the new water system that BTC is implementing. It's a solar-powered water pump.
Thank you.
So just to summarize everything together, we came to work with BTC and establish a sustainable relationship with this NGO as well as with the community directly in Nicaragua. And what we found was that the Photo Voice project in particular helped us to reveal expressed needs, and by that I mean needs expressed by the community members themselves, rather than the perceived needs of us and the NGO, like Leanne elaborated. They learned some lessons about their perceived needs. We learned some lessons about our perceived needs. And because of this good relationship that we built, we'll be sending another group back in this summer to help with another community that will hopefully continue this project. Thank you.